¿Qué onda? ¿Qué onda? ¿Cómo están? No se sienten, amigos, esa emoción. ¿Cómo está Conjunto Santander y FICG? Que se sienta que no llevan 8 días de Festival Internacional de Cine de Guadalajara, que llevan las desveladas. ¿Quién se ha estado desvelando en las fiestas? Levante la mano. Se nota, amigos. Pero que se siente ese ánimo. Ya estamos en el último momento de estos 40 años, estas 40 ediciones del Festival Internacional de Cine de Guadalajara. Vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso al festival porque la verdad es que este año y en estos 40 años se han lucido como unos grandes. Vamos a darle un fuerte aplauso a Estrella Araiza, a su directora también, y a todo el personal que hacen este festival posible, desde la gente que está en la entrada. Y obviamente me presento, mi nombre es Héctor Trejo, pero me pueden decir Bully, y el día de hoy estoy muy emocionado porque vamos a tener una plática que en su mayoría la vamos a tener en inglés, pero sé que ya algunos tienen ahí su equipo de traducción. Levante la mano quien trae ahí su traductor. Si no, me encanta que el Duolingo esté funcionando. Así que, ¿qué les parece si para no entrar en tanta palabrería, presento a nuestros invitados el día de hoy? Pero primero quiero saber qué tan emocionados están por recibirlos. Eso. Pues para mí es muy grato darle la bienvenida a dos personas que, créanme, estuve platicando con ellas allá atrás un ratito y me parecieron seres humanos increíbles y que están con nosotros para esta masterclass, para compartir todo su conocimiento y experiencias y sobre todo hablar del título de esta masterclass llamada Latinos, cambiando Hollywood. Vamos a darle la bienvenida con un estruendoso aplauso a Joel Novoa y a Xolo Maridueña. I just thought Xolo didn't came. He came his wrestling version.
El Santo, my alter ego, El Santo came. Thank you so much, Guadalajara, for having us. Thank you, thank you.
Xolo, Joel, please take a seat.
Okay.
Welcome to Guadalajara International Film Festival. I just wanna first, I think it's the common question. So perfect. Or we can put it in the bottled water, and I think it's gonna look amazing.
Perfect. All right.
We are dressing the bottled water. Perfect. Now we have our wrestler. We are in Guadalajara, and I just want to ask you, are you liking Guadalajara, guys?
Oh yeah. Es mi primera vez aquí en Guadalajara and it's the best time I've had already. I think like 12 tortas ahogadas. So I feel I might fall asleep right here on the master class, but I'm having a blast and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Do you know how do we name when you fell asleep after eating a lot?
No, what do I say?
Mal del puerco.
¿no?
Mal de puerco. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the mal del
Wait,
puerco.
people have told me this. I've already heard this like 3 times.
You already
I wear
had
it on
it.
my face. I wear the mal de puerco on my face. That's right.
And you, Joel?
I am married to Guadalajara, literally. So I am 50% from here. My wife is from here. So I love it here. Me encanta estar aquí. Es mi segunda casa y bueno, es fabuloso poder estar aquí con esta excusa, pero si no lo hubiese también estaría aquí comiendo tortas ahogadas con Xolo.
Yeah. Definitivamente Guadalajara es un lugar hermoso no solamente por su cultura, también por su comida. Y hoy en día lo que estamos viendo es que la industria ha crecido. Justo les platicaba, I was talking with you about how Guadalajara is just becoming a great hub for artists. And internationally now they are seeking not only Mexico City, where you were in CCXP weeks ago, but also Guadalajara has just grown exponentially. We have Taller del Chucho, for Taller del Chucho, which is our animation hub. And I just wanted to ask you, how do you see, and for both, because you have Tapatío, how do you see Mexico as a creative cradle, or how can I say it, just like a hub for new artists?
You want to go first, or I'll go first? Okay, so I see Mexico and the greater, all of the honestly, every country, I think, has the opportunity through the arts, through music, through movies, through what we do, to really get across messages that we can't in government, in our day-to-day lives, and getting to come out here to Mexico and getting to see films like the ones that at this very film festival have been super eye-opening in understanding that there is no one experience. Growing up in Los Angeles and in, the greater Hollywood area, you get confused, like, the movies will have you confused into thinking being Mexican means one thing. You are this, you are that. And it was only until I got a chance to come out here and get to really bear witness to the culture and to the people out here that you see it's not like that. And Joel and myself, I think we hope to be a part of the narrative that is setting it straight, setting the record straight.
Good. You,
about
Joe?
you?
Yeah, for me, Mexico, like for various reasons, it's it's a bridge. I think it's a bridge for a place that you can do big things and still try to do it, with our culture, in our language. I remember I grew up in Venezuela. That's my other 50%. And when I grew up in the 90s, and we always watch in TV, you always watch these kind of big Hollywood movies, like the ones that Xolo is saying, like everything was a stereotype.
Yeah.
But then, like the Mexican culture, like we had a lot of access to the Mexican culture, not only in cinema, but also in music, like Molotov, Control Machete, all of those, like I grew up with that. And then you also had like this exposition to movies like Amores Perros, that were like changing the narrative. So as a like somebody who was there, like I always tell the story that I watched Karate Kid, that came out in 1986. We watched it on the 90s as if it was just coming out, because everything kind of came out like a couple of years after. But it was something like, that's another world. That's something that it's not for us. But Mexico kind of brought everything closer to us, to the point that when I made my first movie, this festival supported it. Like this festival, I came here for a co-production market, and it was a way of building. And because of that film, it's actually something that somebody like me was able to break into the culture of Los Angeles. And it had a lot to do with Mexico. So like, personally, and obviously for a lot of reasons, Mexico is a very important country for me, and also like for a lot of people that, like me, made that journey. In Venezuela, we say this, cruzamos el charco. Yeah. And so like Mexico was very instrumental on making us be able to dream into different countries, different continents, and bigger movies.
Now that you're saying about multicultural, I think nowadays with streaming and as you said, like the first Karate Kid was just a movie that you saw years after, right? But it was the same impact. Xolo, do you remember any foreign movie or the first foreign movie that you saw and you said, oh my God, there's another world out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Amores Perros is one of my top movies of all time, still to this day, but I think I have a very vivid memory, and honestly, I don't even remember if I don't remember who did the production, but there was this movie, Bajo la Misma Luna, that I saw, and I must have been like 7 or 8, and I've never had like I've never connected and looked at a movie and felt the things that I felt watching that movie. And I don't know why it came up in my head right now, but I had a really great privilege in having parents who were always kind of showing me movies from Mexico, from France, from Germany, wherever the heck, and specifically being Mexicano and being half Mexican and wanting to further, like Joel is saying, bridge those gaps. It is so important to me today. I feel like it is the arts and on the human-to-human connection that we will bridge those gaps. So it's of the utmost importance to me right now. But yeah, there were tons of examples. That was the one that came to head.
And as Guillermo del Toro says, that cinema is just the language that can make us just inhabit new worlds. Can was that Bajo la Misma Luna the movie that kind of like got you into acting, or you always knew? Not always, but there was something that inside of you wanted to be an actor.
That's a great question. I think theater got me. I think like actually being a part of a team and having a responsibility and playing a character and getting this, energy and reaction with the crowd and the audience was what got me hooked. I grew up loving movies, watching movies all the time. Like my mom and I were bouncing around, and there was like a little, basically like like a TV in the car basically, and the DVDs that were in the car were like raised me, really. Like those movies raised me, and it wasn't until I got a chance to be a part of the team that I was like, whoa, this is what I want to do. And especially starting in community theater with shows that were written by people from where I was from Boyle Heights, with stories that were kind of similar to myself, it became a step further than the movies that I watched growing up, because these were people that I know and characters that I'm familiar with, not, whoever the heck, I don't even know. I don't know.
I just recalled this movie which was nominated last year, Sing Sing, which
yeah.
is about like this prison and,
Oh, yeah.
and the stories that have been told are from inside the people that are
Oh, yeah.
inside the prison. And I think in that movie what stands for me is the role of the director. And I just want to ask you, Joel, also how did you turn that dream of being a director into a reality?
That was a great segue.
Yeah,
That
you're
was great.
good.
This guy's good.
Thanks.
Yeah, for me, my story was like very weird in a way, because both of my parents were working in the industry back in Venezuela. So, I became a rebel, and I'm actually a lawyer. So I graduated as a lawyer because, I don't know. And after that, I started, I was always a fan of like American type of thrillers at the beginning. And I never saw that in my language. Like that was something that was never accessible. And so I decided to just take matters into my own hands. And because of some stuff that when I was studying law I saw, I wrote my first film. And that kind of like, I was watching Spielberg's movies at the time, and also like I remember at the time On Prophet, the French movie came out, and I was like, I wanted to kind of portray that in our continent. So I went out and did this movie. Long story short, the movie did great. I started like I was lucky enough to be hired in Europe. And, but then, I had some trouble in my country, and I ended up in United States. And the thing is, like, at that point, things are a little bit different, but not that different, but like sometimes when you get there, and you're making something that is in another language, you have to start from scratch. So, like, I had to go back to finding a way of paying my bills. And, all that time, movies kept me alive, because I always had this dream of like, I wanna keep making these movies. I wanna think, higher, but then you always have to pay the bills. And so it was like movies was like what accompanied me through all that time. And then, at some point things kind of go well, and it's like having a best friend that is inspiring you every day. And in a world like we live, I think it's important to stay inspired. And I think movies have, like, in me, it's always been that. It's been everything I've done. It's been related to what I've seen in a movie. The same like what happened to you with La Misma Luna. It's the stories that we see that kind of keeps us inspired, and I think that's the real power, and that's, at the end there's a lot of things around there, but that's what we really do, why we do it, and it's why it's still a human business.
I love that. And talking about inspiration, a couple of weeks ago I got the opportunity to be the host of the newest Karate Kid premiere in Mexico City.
No way.
Yes, it was great. And what astounded me was the huge amount of Cobra Kai fans that were just like shouting and screaming at the premiere. And I think that I wanted to start talking about that show because I think, and I think people can relate in the audience. Can you just lift your hand? Pueden levantar la mano los fans de Cobra Kai por aquí, por favor. Ahí está.
What? Oh my gosh.
And vamos a darnos un fuerte aplauso, por favor, por Cobra Kai. Simplemente por Cobra Kai. What you did in that show, I think it just made such a cultural impact. And nowadays I can see that it wasn't only for a generation, like for the younger guys. It was for all generations, the ones that grew up watching Karate Kid and the ones that even didn't knew anything about the show or the movies. And talking about something, Joel, you said about taking matters into your own hands, I think that was kind of the way that Cobra Kai started. It started like a YouTube original and then move on Netflix, and the rest is history. But how was kind of like starting in a project that didn't have to kind of appeal to whatever came before, but you had like a clean lens to just like do whatever you wanted to do?
I mean, you said it really well. I wish the creators were here to chat with us because they could definitely explain it better than I can. But I think what you're referring to was they were the biggest Karate Kid fans. Like, they came from this place of purity and wanting to honor what was before, but not redo it and not try to, make it the same thing. And I think they had a genius idea in bringing a new person as the main character or the main characters and making it a continuation and not a remake. And I think, something else that Joel said that was really, like, I really latched onto right now is that it's all on the human level. I think also what you said about this intergenerational, it's not just kids, it's adults and grandparents. The opportunity to get to heal that father-son connection in Cobra Kai and meet, not know your dad and have someone else that can come into your life and kind of fill that gap on both ends. That storyline specifically is one that I think keeps on, a lot of the folk that I meet come and they're like, yo, I'm a 50-year-old man and I got to bond with my dad who took me to go see The Karate Kid back in '84, or children who are like, my dad didn't know anything about Cobra Kai, but I showed him this show, and now we're bonding. I think that on that level, it makes it so much more tangible, and I think just getting to play out those themes and those storylines were some of the most fun in the midst of all this crazy karate drama and all of this stuff. Like, those small human moments were, I think, what I resonated with the most and would just over the 6-7 years I had the most fun doing.
And let me tell you, the journey of Miguel, I think is just such an amazing journey. Was something also that the directors that were involved, including Joel, had in mind every time that you film an episode or even a season? Was there like kind of a way that you can also contribute to the way the story was being told?
That's a great question. I think the writers did a really great job during the first 2 years of really figuring out what our strengths, what our weaknesses were, who we are, and I think we kind of met in the middle. The first couple of episodes of the first season were us figuring out, they were writing to the character, I was figuring out the character. By the time season 2 comes around, season 3, it feels like a well-oiled machine in that, there's this sense of trust that even if I'm getting thrown off the ledge in the second season, I'm like, I trust you guys. I know that what we're doing is right here. And sorry, could you repeat the question?
No, did you have any kind of also like after the second season?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, when it came to the directors, sorry. When it came to the directors, I think something that was really unique was, the actors, the writers were in some ways holding the integrity of the show, with different directors coming in every couple of episodes. And something that I really appreciated about Joel is that, not only had he already seen the show and was familiar with the characters and the world, but he is a human person or a people person, I should say. And so much of the job is talking to your AD, talking to your camera people, talking to your lighting people, getting that relationship, like a really tight bond. And it's tough for some people because it feels like you're jumping onto a moving train. You're like, these people have known each other for 5 years already, and I'm jumping in here like, I'm your new dad. Like, let me tell you what to do for a little while, for 2 weeks, and then I'll head out. And Joel really came in and was so respectful, but also elevated and brought his vision and brought his sauce to our show. And I think that's why we kept on bringing him back. I think he's the director that we've had the most on the show, and it's for a great reason.
That's fantastic. And
Well,
Joel,
from your perspective.
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm blushed, but
You cannot see it from here, but he's blush.
yeah, I think one of the things that Xolo's character, I think the show, as everybody here, I'm a huge fan. Before I was a director, I was a fan since it came out on YouTube. So like I watched it as a fan at the beginning. So I couldn't believe that I was like the first day there. I felt like the new kid at school. And behind, we were talking about talent. Xolo has this amazing talent. Hector showed us some talents that he can show you all later. And I was like, I don't have any talent. Like, I think my talent is that I'm very good pretending not to be nervous. That's my talent. And that actually makes me a good director sometimes because it's like I feel composed. But like, I was shaking the first day that I got there. And I meet Ralph, I meet Billy, and they're like talking to me, and I'm like pretending to be cool. Then I met you, and I think one of the things that you did with your character, and it's you and also the writers, is I think we're used to be very respectful, not only with Latinos, but like with everything that it's not like straightforward. Like people are so respectful that they make these characters that are not flawed. And I think interesting characters, interesting humans are flawed. And I think one of the things that you did with Miguel that I liked is that you love the character at the beginning because of who he is, but then at some point he goes to a different side. And you're seeing him and you're like, I understand him, but I'm kind of not rooting 100% for him. And I think that's something that it's not, like, I think that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And because then when you go through him with the whole journey, and then you root for him again.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of credit to you. Like when I met you, I was like, okay, so now I have to go and direct him, and this is what he's saying. Now I have to be everybody's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're playing the orchestra.
You're the boss.
At the end of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, you're like there, and then you see at the orchestra, and you're like, I admire all these people, and like, how am I going to hold this and it did work somehow.
One of my favorite moments on set on this last season, on the first episode, we were doing a scene where my character has to kind of talk down another character, de-escalate the situation. And on the page, it came off like I was kind of boasting, like I was trying to pull a fast one and make this guy my kid, or blah, 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 blah. And we finished the scene, and Joel looks at me, and he's like, that was interesting, like, it read like you were gonna be a jerk, but you made it seem so nice. Like that was so weird, and they ended up scrapping the whole episode. And
Remember that?
No.
It was so good that they completely changed the episode and rewrote everything.
You were like, this was one of my best acting ever.
Literally, like one of the coolest moments. When a director's like, "Great job," you're like, "Thank you." And then they never used it.
We'll find it somehow.
We'll find it somehow, but it's those moments. It's also so much of what kudos to Joel as a director is the on the day. On the page, it can read one way, but when you're doing these fights and you have 6, 7, sometimes 12 characters in a scene, like you really handle your days well, and it's tough having like a strong leader out there. So.
And not easy because they were all young and teenagers.
I know.
So having
we're
12
like
teenagers on
fooling
set.
around,
But it's weird, like they all have like very different energies. and like with time, I tried to like get to know them all. I didn't have too much experience dealing with like, well, by that time you guys were not teenagers, you were already older than 18. But
Yeah.
some of them were, some of them.
And then we brought in a new wave.
Yeah, new class.
Yeah.
And like I was like, I haven't dealt too much, and like you guys were incredibly mature in your own ways. Like everybody there is like, it was like a family, and you know when I was a teenager, I was jealous. I was like, I wish I was decentered. I wish I knew, like, I had that.
Yeah,
So
it's I think so much of it is due in part to Billy and Ralph as leaders on set.
Yeah.
Their welcoming energy and who they are as people bled to everyone else. Because so similarly to you, on my first day at 16 years old, season 1, I was shaking in my boots. I was like, I had no idea what was, going to transpire, and all I knew was that, like, I was going to be acting a lot with Billy, but he was so kind, and I think that really was infectious to the whole crew. That's a
And
good
I
part
think
of it.
that, as you said, like when you're part of a big project, I think as Cobra Kai, you're kind of like, as you said, I was a big fan of the show before kind of getting to direct it. You have the sense of being part of a bigger thing than you, of a bigger purpose, right? And I think that show and Miguel's arc and also kind of the show was just like such a good representation of Latinos. And do you got the sense that you were getting to be part of something larger than you, kind of like being a representation of Latinos? Because nowadays, I think for a lot of actors which I've talked, who have made to Hollywood and kind of connecting with the theme that we are gonna talk today, is just like sometimes they kind of feel the pressure that they are representing a culture. But I just wanted to know, how do you feel about it? How do you feel of being a voice of I don't know, the age gap of teens or Mexicans or Latinos, or I don't know, like being part of something bigger than you?
yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, and I think sometimes if you look at the numbers, you'll find some truth of things, and then things that need to be broken up, and things that need to change. Like if you see us as like Hispanic Americans are 23% of United States is Hispanic, which is a huge number. Not only that, but we like as cinema consumers, and this is historically, we're number one. We're the biggest cinema consumption group, and as streaming, and the least represented. Only 6% of shows and big movies have Latino leads. Only 6%. The reason it's, we can be here talking for hours about what's the reason.
Yeah.
But like, I think one of the things that I advocate a lot, and I think, it happened with Xolo, it happened with Jenna Ortega in Wednesday. It's like, when you have good stories that are transcendent, or they call it sometimes franchises, but like for me it's like stories that we live, like that we grew up with, and then that you can justify, like why do you have to justify that Xolo is like Latino to be the lead on Cobra Kai? He was the best, and it happens to be that in Los Angeles it makes all the sense of the world. So like, when things are like that, are organic, I think you start breaking the numbers more and more. And I think people don't want to be taught. People want to be entertained, and that's a reality. And I think we have a mission of, changing the narrative. And I think that's what we're trying. And when I say trying, it's because it's a long fight, but like that's how I see it from my seat.
Yeah, and we cannot just take the crown and say like, yeah, we are now represented because we have the numbers.
Oh, no way. No, the fight is never over. And I think something to everyone's point here today is like, I think the more and more I've gotten to dive into nuanced, diverse characters, the more I realize if you're able to be hyper specific on a story and, you know, really hone in, this kid is, you know, Ecuadorian from Los Angeles, you know, no parent, blah, 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 blah. It's in those moments that in a weird way it becomes the most global because everyone knows what it's like to have a parent. Everyone knows what it's like to grow up. It's bigger than ethnicity and race and all this other stuff but it's also not an accident.
Yeah.
And when we're getting to make this stuff, I do take it as a responsibility, and I do, you know, love the opportunity to get to challenge the narrative for what, you know, Hollywood has said about people that look, sound like me, whether that means a Mexican or a Cubano or, you know, an Ecuadorian or a son or a young man or whatever those things. Like, I want to, you know, be a part of the change in a good way, and this project, Cobra Kai and Blue Beetle, and these positive roles like you're talking about have changed me. And I know that it's possible now. So nobody can tell me that it's not, it can't be done again, because I'm like, we just did it. We just did it back to back. What? Like, let's do it again. And I feel so deeply inspired by all, you know, I hope that Blue Beetle and Cobra Kai opens the door to everyone else's favorite, you know, superhero, yada yada.
Yeah, and I think trying to complement what you were saying, I think those characters and why they become so cheered for the audience is that they are grounded in truth. And I think that when something is grounded in truth and the backstory of these characters can be universal, as you said, like everyone has a father and everybody has a grandma, which I really love how you played. Not only your acting, but also like the whole ensemble in Blue Beetle.
Adriana Barraza,
Yes.
Damián Alcázar, El Pide Carrillo, the whole, Raúl Max Trujillo, the whole squad, Elisa Escobedo.
Yeah.
It was a real family. That was the craziest part. George Lopez, like, we met 2 weeks before, and the weirdest phenomenon on that movie was that there were things that had experiences that I had in my own childhood that I didn't recognize as Mexican. I just thought, you know, this is what breakfast is. I'm not having Mexican food for breakfast, I'm just having breakfast. Like, and then we would recreate or like replicate sayings or moments, meals that I had had growing up, and it was in that moment that I was like, whoa, I didn't realize it's so cool to get to show that to the world and to get to bring that. It felt like I was bringing my family along for the ride, and not often do you get to kind of fill that Venn diagram of kind of honoring your culture and doing something that you love and, you know, getting to work in the business. Like, sometimes you have to choose one or the other, and
And I know that it's different, but I think maybe it's an obvious question, but I just wanted to know, how does it change from not too similar projects, but projects where you are doing great characters that are beloved, in between a TV series and a movie?
What's your experience on the TV show and the movie? What's the biggest difference?
Oh, for me, I think for me it's a very different world.
Yeah.
Because in TV you have a lot of the efficiency factor to it. So like, you know, you guys, like, there's so many characters that as a director, like a lot of times, you know, you guys know and you have been living with that character for years. It feels to me, and I don't know what's your experience, but like on film, it feels to me that there's more exploration on the day. It's more of a collaboration of like, let's
orchestra.
find the truth here at this moment. While in television, you have to figure it out before you show up more.
100.
And I think that's for me the biggest difference. But I think at the end, what we're looking for is the same. We're looking for characters that, what you said, is like
Honest.
grounded, honest, that feel real, that connect. And I think the result should be the same, but the medium should be different. And I don't know, that's
Yeah, I think the pace is definitely different on both, but I agree with what Joel said. Getting to work on a movie, you really do feel the orchestra of lighting and set decoration, and I don't know why that's not the case. You know, maybe it's because so much of it is premeditated in the TV world, and you know, a lot of the times you're like, these are our 4 locations that we're always at, and we'll always be at the dojo, we'll always be at LaRusso's house, we'll always be at, you know, this location, blah, blah, blah. But I think so much of what I love about getting to make both TV shows and movies is the connection with the crew that you're making, and that relationship informs so much of what goes on screen. Cobra Kai, Blue Beetle, I could say that about everything, and that's the biggest difference between the movies and the TV shows, is that the movies, you're like, oh, it's over already? The TV shows, there's a chance to come back or something like that. But with the movies, I'm like, what? It was only 3 weeks. Be my best friend.
I think one of the things, remember that we worked together, Xolo worked with me on the last episode on Cobra Kai, and so we were going to all the meetings together, and remember the quantity of meetings that, you know, you told me one time, it's like sometimes we don't know, like, that all these meetings are like happening, and in television you have meetings for everything, because there's every minute costs. So I think that also contributes to, like, when you get there, it's like everything seems to be already figured out.
They're like, it's too expensive to figure it out on the day, for sure.
As an actor, and I think one thing that I wanted to touch base was when Cobra Kai started, it was like a prime moment for YouTube, but social media was just like growing up exponentially. And by the end of the show, mainly social media was just the main way of communication, you know? And we have this meme thing that happened in Mexico with Blue Beetle, that everybody was just like saying, Blue Beetle 18 de agosto, solo en cines. You didn't knew that?
Wait. Okay, no, I didn't hear about this.
You didn't hear about this?
I mean, I feel like I heard about it, but I just thought it was like...
So everybody in Mexico was just like, mainly Twitter, was just like, let's support this movie.
Oh,
so
yeah,
everything that they post, even though it wasn't an image of the movie, it was like Blue Beetle 18 de agosto, only in cinemas. It was like a main tag every time.
Fight, you're like Blue Beetle.
And I just wanted to know, like, how also Latinos are now having opportunity to kind of expand in a new media that it's the internet, and not new media because it's been around for more than a decade and 2 decades. But I don't know, with your podcast, Lone Lobos, I just wanted to know, like, how an actor nowadays has the opportunity to expand also something that you have to say or you want to say beside from a character in the screen.
That's a good question, and it's interesting because even the podcast is like I would deem like one of the more authentic versions of myself on camera, right? But it is still kind of curated and whatnot. My relationship with social media continues to grow and change, and I think I really appreciate the opportunity to have a platform to speak on things. I think, honestly, as a 24-year-old and as someone who's continuing to grow and figure out my own thoughts and wrap my head around my own everything, it does feel a little scary sometimes. Like, it's hard for me to make to make it real, because there's so many things that I see on social media, and then I talk to you, and I'm like, I don't feel like this is the narrative in my life, or like, you know, or you know, right? Yeah, it's something that I'm continuing to navigate, but I try to lead with a good heart and not take it too seriously, and know that it's like bigger than social media, especially when it came to movies. Like doing Blue Beetle, the stress of being like, you know, this article is gonna come out, and this is what people are saying, and this is that, and this is that. And then the movie came out, and I was like, dude, the best part of the movie was getting to sit next to kids that looked like me and having them watch themselves on screen, I was like, I don't give a fuck what the box office was or who, what, where, whoever the heck. Like, if you saw the movie, you liked it, and if you didn't, whatever. Like, it became so much bigger than a tabloid or anything like that, and at the same time, it is kind of the first thing that people look to. So I have to take it seriously, and I have to like interact with it like it's this beast that is gonna. I don't know. It's weird.
Let me tell you,
it's weird.
honestly, I love Blue Beetle. It was amazing. Viva Blue Beetle. 18 de agosto solo en cines. Joel, and you as a director who's had grown through the expansion of social media, how have you seen nowadays that work of Latinos can be shared easily, or how do you see the medium?
I think that's very interesting. I think we're on a moment that things can be used the way you want it to use. We're in a business of realists. Like, every movie you make, there's 25 producers, and most of the people are very realistic, even in this. And, what Xolo is saying, like, trying to be away from all that noise and just concentrate on what really matters, I think is one of the things that are difficult to navigate on this kind of era of social media, where when you're getting, everybody's truth spit everywhere. I personally think there's an opportunity there if it's managed well. I think obviously the world will have more and more of that because it's inevitable. But I think a lot of people are very fatalists with it, like, that's what it's gonna be and it's gonna eat everything. I personally feel that there's, if human beings still want to see human story, if that kid that looks at Blue Beetle wants to see himself on the screen, and that's still going to be going on. So I think social media would be a way of enforcing that, and it also helps us, as a community, it also helps us to be rebels. Like, I've always been a rebel because, it's the only way to do things. People usually go, it's like, there's always a no. And I'm sure you guys both have been through this a lot. And you're always getting no's and no's and no's. And I think you always have to be like driving through it. And I think that's social media will allow for not so many filters for people that are talented to portray their work to the world, for like more rebels like us. And I think that's what's exciting on the future. But to get there, you need to like get out of this kind of noise that sometimes. So I agree 100% with Xolo about like what's the real part of the experience.
And I think as we are saying today, we still have a lot of work to do, but what we are gonna see in the future is, as you said, Xolo, these kids who are seeing themselves, and maybe as Bajo la Misma Luna was a movie that inspired you to be an actor, maybe Blue Beetle was, and seeing yourself was for that kid the movie that it's gonna make them wanna go and chase acting. And I know that a lot of people here in the audience see you as a role model, and I just wanna thank you a lot, and Joel, also you, for making and for creating art from the heart. And now we're gonna open this space for Q&A. Así que vamos a abrir esta sección para preguntas y respuestas. Tenemos a nuestros micrófonos por allá y quisiera ver nada más a los chicos que tienen los micrófonos que me levanten la mano para poder empezar. Voy a intentar hacerlo equilibrado. Ahorita vamos del lado izquierdo, pero tenemos una pregunta por ahí con nuestra amiga del lado derecho, o sea, izquierda de ustedes.
¿No?
A ver si nos pueden prender un poquitito la luz de sala para poderlos ver, nada más, y si se pueden parar para hacer la pregunta.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for taking your time and being here. Really, I really love your work. I love everything about you.
Thank you.
And I have like a really strong question, especially about what is happening right now in, well, you know what's happening in the US, but it's not about that. I remember you said that, well, you're Mexican and a U.S. citizen, and it's like weird having these two cultural identities. Uh, and I want to ask you, like, what do you think is the best and the worst part of those things? Because um, I was talking with people of Puerto Rico here in the event, and well, they're in a similar, in a similar state, and especially where our group and I. Shout out to my teacher Dacia.
Hey, shout out.
That we are from Tijuana, and we can see that reflected in in our lives. Not mine really, because I feel like I'm just 100% Mexican. But there's a lot of people in Tijuana, Los Angeles, and San Diego that are like awkward with their identity. Their cultural identity. Thanks.
Of course, what was your name?
Carlos.
Carlos, placer. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Great question. Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you for asking. I think you've brought up a great question. It's something again that I've continued to, turn over the rocks and search inwards at my own identity. I think something that is prevalent to me more than ever is the fact that I personally believe that it is the people in this room, it is the people that you know, that I know, that will, that are the truth tellers. What's the word for it? You represent what it means to be Latino, and it's terrible. Like I don't look to my government or my representatives to speak for me in the ways that I would speak for myself, or the ways that my family would speak for myself, and I feel like the fight that you're talking about today is a fight that's been going on for so long, forever, and what I continue to do is continue to focus on what I can do on my personal human level. And I think right now in Los Angeles, in my hometown, I know immediately what that is. I have 10 people in my phone that I know that I could touch out with my hands, that I know I need to help. And I think what is the most important to me is supporting, my folk and supporting, the people around me, and encouraging them and reminding you and myself that just by living and breathing, you are Latino enough. There's nothing that you have to do. There's no test or anything, that is going to make one person more than another. And I say this as someone with a lot of privilege and who is continuing to try to, grapple on my own identity and whatnot. But I don't find it awkward anymore. I don't find the inner battle awkward anymore. I do, I feel enough, and I'm not going to feel uncomfortable because someone else doesn't see me as something. Like I don't have, it's not part of the human condition. Like I'm trying to, yeah. And what about you, Joel? What about you?
I second everything you said.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I just feel like, sometimes politics get in the middle of humanity, and I personally feel that we need more humanity. And I think that's what you're bringing to the table, and that's what I respect so much about you.
Yes.
And also, I'm personally, my fellow Venezuelans are in the same, and the same problem in the country, and it's the same. At the end, my voice is not going to change anything big, but at least you can help the people that you care about, and that's, if we all do that, that's, I think, more important than people saying whatever they say.
Yeah, but I would continue to be opinionated, though, and continue to scream from the mountaintops, for show. So great question.
Tenemos una pregunta ahora sí Gracias, gracias, Xolo, gracias, Joel. Tenemos una pregunta, perfecto. Allá atrás.
Hi, my name is Sara. I'm going to try to speak English, but I'm really nervous, so maybe I can forget it.
Puedes
It's a
hacerlo en
pleasure.
español también sin ningún problema,
Muchas
¿eh?
gracias. Bueno, primero es un placer conocerte. Tanto mi hermana como yo somos grandes fans de Cobra Kai, de Karate Kid, entonces estar aquí es increíble. Y mi pregunta es, sabemos que Hollywood es increíblemente grande en cuanto al cine, pero no sé, mi pregunta es, ¿te gustaría trabajar con algún director mexicano en alguna película mexicana? Porque sabemos que, como lo mencionaste, Amores Perros es una increíble película, entonces a ver si se llega a presentar alguna oportunidad así de trabajar con algún director mexicano, no sé, Alfonso Cuarón, Guillermo del Toro, Iñárritu, si te gustaría hacerlo y con quién. Gracias.
Do a horror
Great-
movie,
great
please.
question.
Do a horror movie.
Great question. Yeah, I'll be like, I'm already ready. I'm already skinny enough to do whatever character Guillermo wants me to do. I'll be a fish for you, Guillermo. Great question. Pleasure to meet you. It would be a dream come true of mine to get to bridge that gap. On Blue Beetle, I had the pleasure of getting to do a story that was written by a Mexicano, Garrett Donald Alcocer. He's a fantastic writer, and as I was kind of mentioning earlier, I had so many moments that I was like, whoa, this feels so personal. I felt so connected and so deeply inspired by his writing, and I think I would love to get to work with any one of those directors that you mentioned. I think what it comes down to is, as an actor, it's my favorite place to be in when I'm getting to be of service to a filmmaker like you're talking about, who needs to tell a story. I got to work with Angel Manuel Soto, on Blue Beetle, and this dude needed to tell this story, and I felt like it had taken our whole lives to be ready for this one moment, and getting to work with Joel and our creators on Cobra Kai, I felt the same way, like everything, all that I had learned, was needed to execute what we were doing at hand, and I would love to do it, yeah. I don't know, it doesn't have to be a specific horror or genre or whatever the heck like that, but I really, Iñárritu's my guy. I like his stuff, and I'd love to get to just bear witness. I actually, to speak on that, I got to shadow Joel for a little bit on Cobra Kai, and in my interest in directing and wanting to see that side of things, got to see, through the process, and it's really cool. So even if it's just a coffee, let's do it.
In
All-
the future,
three of us.
we're
The four of
gonna,
us, let's do
yeah.
it.
You have to direct.
Uh-huh.
I think you'll
Yeah,
be great at it.
Maybe it'll be like the studio, all direct Cuarón, and it'll be like the Scorsese.
I return the question. For you, Joel, any actor that you want to work with, Mexican or also director, would you would like to corroborate, or even a writer?
Oh, many. I think I wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
because if I single one out, it's gonna be.
They're all your friends.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
like.
You single one out, they're gonna be like, damn, Joel didn't mention me.
No, but it's the same. I think as a director, it's probably the same. Like we are behind camera, so it needs to be something that feels right, and that you really need. Like for us, it's many years of our lives. Like a project is 5-6 years of our life. So like you really have to love that project.
Yeah.
And in terms of working, you have so much talent that it's cool. So hopefully we'll get to work with a lot
Yeah.
of talent here too.
Before we go to the next question, how many years you spent in Cobra Kai and Blue
7.
Beetle? 7 in Cobra Kai.
7 and 3 months for Blue Beetle.
Wow. I think, as you were saying, it's a long time and it's a big commitment.
It's not very efficient if you see it. Like lawyers usually go like from case to case, and they sometimes solve them quickly, sometimes not. Like we get stuck like for a long time in projects, so you have to love it.
Tenemos pregunta por allá.
Hello. As we see, like in the media or in the show, we kind of maybe perceive that acting is easier to make your way into Hollywood, maybe. But how would you perceive, like, young producers that we are here or young writers that we are here, that we can make this way into it, you know? Because in the new series of Seth Rogen, the production, I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I really maybe want to be like in a big production like that, but as Mexican and the situation that is happening, maybe you can see it a little bit difficult to get into it. I mean, not like really hard, but a big wall is into it, you know, in the middle. So how can both of you perceive or motivate us to follow, to keep going, maybe as AP number 16, maybe 25, you said 25 producers working in the same production. So that's where I'm going.
Any advice, guys, that you have?
Yeah, I don't know if acting is an easier way. Like, you guys have it like very difficult.
Yes.
And I like, the only thing I would say, I think everybody has their own way. My thing is, like, if you, like, the wall, we are examples that the walls can be broken down. And for different reasons, but like we both like have that in common. And I think you have to see what, like, and you know, what's the way. Like, there's so many ways. It's creating something. It's getting involved with other people. It's finding a group that does things. It's like, there's... Yeah, yeah, even here, like, you don't have to be physically in. Like, I think you could, like, right now the world allows for that. And I think, like, just having a plan and just, like, going and just being tenacious and just, like, just breaking into it and then it happens. Like, don't be so, like, realists, we need realists in this business, because if not, we will be going crazy. But don't, like, just ignore sometimes that part and just go and go and go and go until the walls start breaking down. That's what I would say. And I don't know if you, like...
I mean, I would second this, and I would also say, like, it's really important to find that tribe and to find people you trust, and, you know, people who are like-minded in your vision is going to be super important. And then, you know, aside from that, it sounds like you're doing what you love, and that's a great first step. And you know, it's in those moments that you can continue to, you know, be resilient on the days that you're not getting the auditions, or on the days that you're hearing those and all that. Like, it's make sure to and always continue to learn. Like, don't research. Like, as an actor, just because I'm not on screen doesn't mean I can't act. I can hop in the theater and continue to practice and continue doing classes, and always, you know, try to better myself in that way. And I would, you know, advocate for you to do the same as well.
And I think that we always say that we always talk about the times that we are successful, but we don't talk a lot about the times that we fail, and we learn a lot about failing. And I think that exposing yourself to failure, I think, is one of the...
It's where you grow.
Yes, definitely. And thank you very much. I think we don't have any time left. No, ya no tenemos tiempo para más preguntas, a menos de que... Xolo, Joel, ¿una pregunta más? Hagamos una pregunta más, chicos. Tenemos el micrófono para una última pregunta. Ahí está. Digan a nosotros, son las chicas. No, no es cierto.
Dios tiene a sus favoritos. First of all, thank you so much for being here, for giving us the time and all of the stories that you have shared with us. Such a pleasure. And I think my question would be, what have you learned from your characters, or from your stories? Like, has Jaime Reyes or Miguel Diaz taught Xolo something, or has Joel learned something from Cobra Kai or La Niñera? Like, what have you learned on a personal level from those stories?
I mean, great question. I find myself to 100% be a more positive person because of the roles that I've gotten a chance to play. On a outside of the character level, I think Cobra Kai has taught me the value of kindness and respect in an environment where you're working with people 14 hours a day, sometimes 5 days a week. Ralph and Billy both led by example in a way that, you know, everyone on set was so astonished by it. And so, like, it really, my mom, like, growing up is always like, you never know who you're sitting next to. Always be kind, because you never know. 3 weeks later, you might meet this person later, and, you know, if you were a dick to them, who knows, whatever the heck, you know? And it shouldn't be for those reasons, but Cobra Kai taught me this, and then Blue Beetle, you know, Blue Beetle was this weird moment where, like I was mentioning earlier, it really did feel like the story was mirroring my life in this way that I learned to trust myself on Blue Beetle. After 11 years, 12 years of acting, I just learned, like, dude, you're doing it already. Like, you don't have to be nervous. Like, you might not be the best. Susan Sarandon is on set. You're not going to be the best actor. It's okay. Like, just be the most invested, be the most respectful, and show up every day at 100%. And that's what I learned on that. Like, that it's okay not to feel right in the moment, but to continue kind of pushing forward. Those are two things that I learned. What about you?
Oh, I think on my side, it's interesting because a lot of my journey on behind camera is you kind of learn the same humility for, like, different reasons. And I think for me, when I think I learned the value of a family, because, you know, this is a family, like a business of families. Like, you go into like, you either form a family or you're part of a family. And that makes you, like, it makes you humble. It makes you allow, you know, to understand everybody around you. And, you know, I think one of the biggest things that I learned is, like, for example, with you guys, is like, you see this, you know, you put a lot of people in a pedestal because you admire them, and I think that's interesting. I do the same. But, like, everybody's human, and everybody is going through the same, and everybody's going, you know, everybody's. So I think a lot of what I've learned is, you know, and what I've changed is stop being up here and just kind of connecting more, and the true experience of that. You know, even if I win 10 Oscars, the next day I'm gonna be having breakfast with my kid.
If he wins 10 Oscars,
I'll
we'll
be
never see him again.
I'll be in and out with Guillermo del Toro.
That was it, yeah.
But then the next morning, I'll probably be, you know, having breakfast with my kid and my wife. So, you know, at the end, it's like, you know, we're all human, and I think that's what I take from, like, circumstances change, but, like, we're all going through stuff, and that's it.
Definitivamente nos llevamos grandes lecciones, Xolo, Joel. Muchísimas gracias por esta plática. Ha sido inspiradora. Vamos a darles un fuerte aplauso, por favor, a Xolo Maridueña y Joel Novoa, por favor.
Thank you.
Así que todos de pie para una fotografía. Así que vamos a tomar una foto. We're going to take a picture. We have our photographer here. Yeah, we're going to have El Santo Xolo. Xolo's cousin, El Santo. Okay, you go in the middle. We're gonna take a picture of you both. Okay. Todos levanten las. No, prendan la luz de sala un poquito más para que se puedan ver todos. Tú me dices, yeah, ahora me voy a colar acá. Luces. 1, 2, 3, and perfecto. Muchas gracias. Vamos a despedir con un fuerte aplauso a Xolo Maridueña y Joel Novoa, por favor. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you, guys. Chicos, muchas gracias por su presencia. Mi nombre es Héctor Trejo y fue un gusto echar esta plática con todos ustedes. Sigan disfrutando del FICG. Bye, bye.